Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Three's In. Bobo here, TDY. TDY to a hotel in Sydney, Ohio. About another 2 weeks and the house will be completed, and boy, am I happy with that thought. This has been, actually it's not been too bad, but boy, I'm looking forward to settling in our new house. That being said, a couple weeks ago we took a trip up to the New England coast that included a stop in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And while I was there, I was reminded of a very dear friend of mine, Jim Fowler, who I flew with in the 560th Flying Training Squadron in the early 80s. Jim was an exchange officer from the Canadian Air Force, and just a great guy. And as we're wandering around Halifax, I happened to spot these shirts. And here we go. And I thought, how appropriate to share a story about Jim Fowler wearing that shirt. So I purchased one, and here we go. Jim had a great family when I met him. A wife and a couple kids, and he was a great family man. He also had a wonderful sense of humor, second to none, except maybe mine. At any rate, we just got along together. What one of us didn't think of, the other one made up for. And he was a great pilot. He was a great mentor also. We spent many, many hours talking about student training and philosophy and so forth. At any rate, I'm hesitant to tell the story because I know there are some that might think there was something nefarious about this, but I can tell you, I can assure you there wasn't. That being said, we find ourselves TDY at Tinker Air Force Base on a weekend cross country one evening, and we're in the club trying to drink all the beer in Oklahoma. And Jim saddles up to the bar to order another round, and there's this Marine colonel there. Well, Jim's wearing his Canadian black flight suit that they wore. Friday nights, time for fancy dress, I suppose. So Jim's wearing his black flight suit. It catches the eye of this Marine colonel. And they get to chatting a little bit. And about that time, this gal walks by, and she's pretty nice looking. And it catches both their attention, and this colonel says, "You don't have a hair on your ass if you don't yada, 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 yada." And Jim looks at the gal, he looks at the colonel, he says, "You don't know me very well at all, I don't think." So he leaves the colonel standing at the bar and heads over toward that gal they'd just seen. And soon thereafter, they kind of disappear from the scene. Well, about 20 minutes later, 15 minutes later, I don't know what it was, here they come back in the bar. And when they come back in the bar, this gal, I don't know who she was, I don't know if she was a nurse, a school teacher, or what, but she's wearing Jim's flight suit. And Jim is wearing her pantyhose over his underwear and his flight jacket. And he walks up to this colonel with this gal in tow, and he taps him on the shoulder. The colonel turns around, and he about loses it. And Jim says, "Colonel," he says, "no disrespect, man, but I have more hair on my ass than you have on your head." And this colonel he was just beside himself. He didn't know how to react. And a lot of times, a lot of us didn't know how to react with Jim's humor. It was so sophisticated and so deep, and it was cutting. It was great. One year, our flight in the 560th D flight, dog flight, decided to hold a Thanksgiving dinner at our monthly continuation training meeting, COT meeting. And so we had a dinner set up, and I'll tell you more about this in another video here coming soon. Matter of fact, it'd be real appropriate as we get near Thanksgiving. At any rate, I'll just make mention of it here. But Jim was the flight commander of B Flight at that time. So we're sitting down to have this Thanksgiving dinner, and all of a sudden the door opens up, and Jim and all his B Flight IPs are dressed up like Indians, and they come in hooping and hollering, racing around the flight room as we're sitting in there having our meeting and having a bit of a Thanksgiving dinner. It was just hilarious. And as they're hooping and hollering out the door as they leave, some ATC colonel walks in, or general, I don't know, and he looks at all this going on. He just can't make sense of it, hiding their hair. And some of those guys were humorless, but be that as it may, we just carried on with the mission at hand. At any rate, I just want to take a moment and tell you about Jim. He passed away a few years ago, and boy, I miss him and his take on life. It was right up there with mine. And Jim, you're always in my heart. You always will be. That being said, this is Bobo from a remote location. Base gear. Stop.